So I'm just starting the recording for week 5. This will be our last session on Photoshop before we move into some more of the softwares in the Adobe Suite. And today we move from rendering in 2-dimension flat to consider perspective drawing. So these are the assignments that you see here that we'll be doing today. Oftentimes you don't have to add a lot of color to change a black and white line drawing into something special. So here you can see today we're just going to add a little bit color to this drawing. You're going to learn how to do these drawings later in the semester, these perspective drawings. You can do this in Revit. You can do this by hand. We're going to use Cheap Architect and we're going to use SketchUp. So the summary today is to really talk about Entourage. And coming from a model home and builder background where marketing was really key, it was important that our model homes revealed a life through staging and merchandising. So you should be able to walk in there and it shouldn't feel like an empty house. It should feel like a home. So adding Entourage to drawings is very similar. It moves it just from a kind of a very still drawing to something with a little more energy that your clients can see themselves engaging with. So that's what we're going to look at today. And the first step to complete this assignment is I would like you to go to Mr. Cutout. So Mr. Cutout is a free site where you can register and you can download, I think, 3 a day. At least that's what I remember when I first started doing this, that you can download these Photoshop cutouts 3 a day. So you can get trees and grass and vegetation and people. We're working on 2 business interiors just to kind of keep it simple. We're working on 2 business interiors. And so you'll find that that's where I got our cutouts. These are great, and I encourage you to start building your library. So like Lauren, that you're on, this is going to be great for you to start. I have a whole file called Entourage so that when I design, I can quickly, place people in my drawings. And I say that you should start this now because it always seems like you have a drawing that's due like tomorrow, right? Like I had last summer my restaurant drawings, they were like given to me and like, go, let's have a meeting tomorrow. So it's good to have a lot of these things set in place for when you start practicing again. So that is Mr. Cutout. And what I'm asking you to do, am I clicking the right Mr. Cutout here? So what I'm asking you to do is in your assignment today is I'm giving you several Photoshop drawings. Sitting girl, man sitting, walking girl. So I've already gone through and saved some of those for you for the sake of time. But what I'm asking you to do is to go ahead and add at least 1 or 2 of your own into these exercises. So take the time to go through that exercise. But for the sake of time, as usual, I've provided all of the files. Number 2. Number 2 is nothing that you have to turn in. So if you're following along right now, Lauren or something, you could open this. This is nothing to turn in, but it's to start thinking about how do I bring in these Entourage and how do I place them into my drawing? So if you've taken drawing, at least in most classes, I would assume, when you're drawing in an interior room, you start with a horizon line or eye level, which is about at 5 feet. So people towards the back of the room, their eyes are still going to be at that 5-foot level, but they're going to appear smaller. People more in the foreground, their eyes will still be around 5 feet, and they'll be larger as they get to the foreground. Clearly, children will be below the eye level, and tall people will be a little above it. So this is just practice, and I encourage you all to go ahead and try this. So I'm going to do it with you. So I'm going to just start at the bottom. There's a walking girl. There's her back there. And I'm going to click on her. I'm going to click on the walking girl on that layer. So nothing happens yet. I could move her. So that's good. I could move her. So I can move her eyes on the eye level. But I need to transform her. I need to adjust her scale. So from that layer, I'm going to go Edit, Transform, and then I'm going to Scale. Edit, Transform, and Scale. And I'm going to estimate her. I'm right there on that 5-foot line. Next person, I have this groovy gal with her sunglasses. Edit, Transform, Scale. There's her eyes. So now you're going to start seeing that they're in the room rather than walking towards like a wall. They're going to start feeling like they're in the space. Edit, Transform, Scale. It's going to be a little higher. I'm going to make Mom and Dot way up here, that you don't even see their feet on the page. They're just like walking into the room. Where's my gal here? Maybe she's outside of the room. So right now she is in the foreground, right? I can even put her like this. What if I wanted to put her behind the man or put her in towards the background? Well, then that has to do with adjusting the layers. So we need to put her behind the man and get her way back there now. Well, now she's just not right. If she's behind the man, then we would need to edit, transform, and scale. She's behind him. Questions? So I saw from the elevation, beautiful, by the way, students, beautiful elevations of those kitchen. You did a really nice job. Probably the hardest part was putting the woman at the door, right? That woman at the door. And so what I encouraged you to do is, if you're around 5'4" or 5'5", as maybe that woman is, that we place in the kitchen, where does her hips hit the countertop? Where do her eyes hit the backsplash? So if you're 6 foot, like this fine gentleman, you know, kind of see where your eyes hit a kitchen. See where your hips hit. See where the underside of your knees hit. Because that's going to start helping you by observing you. That's going to start helping you put Entourage into a space. Are there any questions? Right. I have already downloaded all of these files, and I have put them just in a folder on my desktop for easy access, so I don't waste too much time. What I am going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and download the instructions. I need to remove those. Download the instructions for exercise 7. These are the updated ones. So if you're following along and taking notes, however you like to take notes, here are the instructions for this exercise. Do you still see my Photoshop drawing?
Yes, I still see the Canvas site.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just, I think it's going to be easier for me to print the instructions. Okay, so we're going to start a new drawing file. I can remove our little practice one. A minute. So I just went File, New, and from last week we still already have 17 by 11. I went Create to follow the instructions, and then here we have it. So I'm going to resume the recording. And
Hey, Corey, I still see the Photoshop Canvas tab open. Do you have Photoshop open, the program?
I do. I do. So right, so I'm on page 1 of the instructions, and I went File, New. We already have established a 17 by 11 custom template, so I selected that and I hit Create. And then I did File, Place Embedded, and I brought in the conference room. And when I brought in the conference room, there was a little bit of a watermark still here. So I found this somewhere. There was still a little bit of a watermark that I saw. So just to quickly to get rid of that, I went Image, Adjustment, and then I adjusted the brightness. And then that quickly just got rid of that watermark. It made it go away. I rasterized the layer, I adjusted the brightness, and then I duplicated to make a copy. The first thing we're going to do, oh, wrong one, right? File, this is our second one. File, New, all ready for next time. Create, File, Place Embedded. I saved all of my files that I provided for you on the modules on my desktop. So I just have to do this once, and then hopefully I'll be good to go for the rest of this assignment. I have Lauren here helping me out. I'm on my desktop. I'm looking for my folder. We can use the handles to adjust. We can move it around so that there's equal spacing. Typically, you leave a little more space on the bottom for text and a little more visual weight. Once you get it where you want, hit Enter on the keyboard. Right-click to rasterize layer. And let me just make sure I am recording. If I'm not, Lauren, I'll do it better another time. Let's see. I'm on page 2. I'm on page 2 of the instructions. So the first thing to do is something that we've done before, is to simply to add color. And I'm just going to give you a little tip that I do. A little tip that I do is sometimes I add a photo or a fabric or something as a reference. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, Place Embedded. I'm going to find that photograph that I've already rendered. I'm going to make it small, and I'm just going to keep it down here as a reference so I know where I'm going. So remember, when we're done, we can take that off. We can, we can click on it and delete it. We can turn it off if we don't want it there, if it's getting in the way of something. But this is a time-saving technique. So if you have an inspiration photo and now you're rendering your design, you can just pick with the eyedropper out of that inspiration photo rather than having to go through like finding the perfect green, the perfect gray. It's already there for you. So that's just a tip that I like to offer you. To add color, we have a new layer, and we're going to call that layer to color. When you click on the eyedropper, again, make sure that sample all layers is selected. So I have had some of you tell me, why can't I select with the wand tool? And I said, probably you don't have sample all layers selected, and so therefore you have a blank page and nothing for the eyedropper to select. So you're going to use the wand tool on page 2 to select the area of the wall to receive gray color. You're going to use the paint bucket tool, just like right down here in the lower left-hand corner, and we're going to paint this a light gray, and then the side and shadow should be in a darker gray. So select, use the eyedropper if you just want to pick my gray, and there it appears. And the gradient tool right now is showing, and to go to paint bucket and drop in color. Control D on your keyboard to deselect. I'm going to select the area to the other side. So what is it doing? It's not able to read. So let me see if I go in closer if it can read that side. It's a little light. That line is a little light. And it isn't. So how about this? Control D on your keyboard. What if we just use the marquee tool? Or what if we use the polygonal tool? So how about this? Click, release. Click, release. Click, release. You can also leave it white. Click, click, click to join. Next, I'm just going to make it a little darker of that same color. You can see it's a little darker now, and I'm going to draw in the paint. Control D on your keyboard to deselect. Next, we're going to use the magic wand to select this front chair. And we're going to select this front chair, and we're going to add a color green. So we're going to add a color green. So again, I'm just going to go to my here just to save time. And we're going to use a soft brush so I can see that it's soft. I'm going to have the opacity set not to 100% because I'm going to build on color. And so the goal is to give it, if this is an open window, maybe open to a patio, the goal is to suggest that there is a little light reflecting on there. So there's so many ways to do this. You can just go ahead and block in the color and then softly erase. Or you can do it this way. Again, in this class, we try to show you all different ways because it'll be whichever is your favorite. So it looks like in my instructions that I even have the brush set even softer to really softly build up. So you can either adjust the size up here or using the brackets next to the letter P on your keyboard, you can make this bigger, which I like to do. And you're going to brush in softly that color. This side would be darker, bottom would be darker. Click, click, click. If you can hear the clicking of my mouse, I'm clicking and releasing just to build up those layers. I think that looks great. Control D to deselect. Your instructions then ask you to simply add in color to the table, to add in color to the chair, and to add in color here to this red chair. So brown tables. I would even make this little chair back there some brown. So Lauren, it's up to you. I'm going to pause the recording. So there was a question of, you know, kind of how to build up this gradient, like what exactly am I doing with the mouse? And so I'm on my layer, so I'm just gonna erase the green, and then I'm gonna try to use my words. Oops, well, there you go. I kind of caught that behind it. So the question was, you know, using my words to describe what I'm doing with my mouse. So first I picked the darkest color that I want to go, so that when I finally apply that color 100%, that's what it will be. I then made sure that I am going to quickly build up my layering. And so I have my opacity like at 35%. I have a soft brush, and I make that brush very large. And so what you'll notice is the first time I hit, I'm keeping my finger down. And when you keep your finger down on the mouse, you are going to get the color on the left at 34%, very even and consistently. Once you remove your finger from the mouse or lift, you're doing, so now I'm going to do a second 34%. Lift my finger. Third 34%, lift my finger. Fourth. And when I want it to get to 100%, I'm just click, 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 getting it to that pure color. Click, 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 click. So now it's at 100%. So I'm not going to take the time to go ahead and color in the tables, the two tables and that back chair. I'm not going to fix that because I'm sure it'll be good in your drawing. It's good in my drawing below. You know where we're going. Also make sure that the pendant lights are colored. Hold the shift key down. Select that gorgeous red again. I want it to be a little more brilliant. I can do that. And then you could either drop the color in with the paint bucket, or you can do with the brush. So I'm just going to do it with the brush. I'm clicking multiple times until it gets very dark. If you want the light source coming here and you just want one side, then you'll just keep clicking and going over one side until it creates that dimension. So this just the difference between solid color and a little more dimension. So the next layer that we're going to add is we're going to add a layer for textures. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in, I'm going to select the area of this chair and the chair in the back, and I'm just going to bring in a pattern. So it's a stripe, and it's just going to be flat. So that's what it looks like. It's just flat. In the next exercise, I'm going to show you how to curve it around an object. So like if we wanted to do something here, we would want the stripe to curve around it. We're going to use what's called the warp tool. But for here, let's just put it in nice and flat, because this should be a drawing that you should be able to do like in 45 minutes. So this is something quick, throw in a little color before you see your client. So go ahead and select the chair. Go down to the pattern fill, which is at the bottom of the screen, create new fill, which looks like your black and white cookie, and add a pattern. And I already have this in my library, so I'll go with that with you again, how to get that in your library. And I feel like the pattern is pretty small, so I'm suggesting to make the scale of your pattern at 195%. And before you hit OK, there is a seam here. And if this truly was, this kind of cool fabric, the seam would probably be somewhere over here. So go ahead and move that by clicking on your mouse, holding down your mouse, and just moving that seam over. So it kind of gives a suggestion that it's turning there. And then hit OK. As a recap, how to bring in textures into your library. This is just a recap from last week. You're going to go File. You're going to go New. Nope, Open. File, Open. Clearly, I print my instructions, but I don't read them. File, Open. And you're going to go ahead and bring that in. And then you're going to define the pattern to put it in your library. And you're going to call it Stripe or Multicolor Stripe or something. And now it's in your library. It happens to be in my library twice. We'll put that in. Now this should be slightly smaller scale back here, right? This is closer to the foreground. This is further away. So I'm going to bring that same pattern in, but instead of 195, maybe it's 170 or something, 160, just a little smaller. You can move it if it feels good where it is to me, and then you're going to hit OK. So now we've just quickly made the suggestion of what the pattern is. So quickly for your client could find, where that is, kind of where you're having solid color pieces and where you're having a print. So just kind of really quick. Next, we're going to add carpet. And you can do it a couple of ways again. You can just drop in the color and then erase some of these highlights. You can use the brush and kind of softly bringing it in, making it solid in some areas and brighter in others. So Lauren, I think how I'm going to do it is I want to introduce you to a new tool called the Dodge and Burn. And I imagine if you know Photoshop, then you probably know where I'm going with this. So click on the area to receive a rug. Hold your Shift key down on your keyboard to highlight multiple areas. And I'm just going to bring the pattern in. So I'm going to bring in the pattern. You can use, again, the pattern stamp, or you can just bring it in. It doesn't really matter. You'll have to bring it into your library first. So File, Open. Here's Concrete. And then I've also given you some seamless gray carpet. Open. I'm going to put it in my library as just gray carpet. And now I'm going to tab back. And whichever way, you can brush it in using the pattern stamp, or you can drop it in down here. Oh well, I will paint it this time. And so that I can use my words. If this is outdoors, then it's going to be lighter back here. So right now my opacity is at 34%. So my carpet's going to come in at 34%. So I didn't select my pattern stamp and my carpet. So that's the carpet coming in. Let's see what happens if I just now do it at 100%. Pattern, scale. If I just do my carpet again. I thought that the carpet looked a little small, so let's just see. My suggestion was to pump it up a bit. And now it looks more textured, and hit OK. So now I have that nice carpet in. I rasterized the layer, very important. I rasterized the layer. So now I can go back to my layer with my carpet, and I could use what's called the Dodge and Burn tool. But before I go there, we placed it in, and I'm going to come to the pattern fill, and I rasterize the layer. So moving to page 4, that looks super fake, right? To me, that looks super fake. I don't like it. So I'm going to use what's called the Dodge and the Burn tool. It's located about halfway down your tool pattern. I'm right-clicking on that. The Dodge tool lightens, and the Burn tool darkens. So right now my exposure is at 50%, and I'm going to go back there and lighten some of that carpet, and I think it gives it a very neat effect. You know, like the light, maybe light's coming in and hitting your carpet. Maybe there's a little bit of light where recessed can lights hit your carpet or something. It just makes it feel a little less uniform and a little more real and tangible. So I'm now going to right click and move from the Dodge tool to the Burn tool. And so where there would be shadows of my carpet, maybe I want my carpet to be a little darker. That's it, just a little bit. The key is, and you can see how it's burning away and darkening right here on the layers panel. You can actually, I know it's really small, but take a look at yours and you can actually see where it's burning it away, lightening it, or burning it, darkening it, dodging it, lightening it. You can actually see it happening there. So if you were on a layer with nothing, it's not going to do that. Now I'm going to go back to the color layer just so that you can see something else. I still have my Burn tool activated, so I'm on my color layer, and so I could do the same thing and darken some of my color even, or lighten your color. But you have to be on the layer with the pigment or the pattern. Questions? So that is the dodge and burn tool. I use it all the time. This is the first time we'll be working with perspective. And Lauren, have you ever worked with perspective, putting something in Photoshop in perspective? We're going to put a brick wall in.
No, I haven't.
So it is really practice and trial and error. And so I will try to give you my tips as much as I can. So first I'm going to bring in an image of a brick wall. It's two-dimensional and it's flat. You're going to go File, Place Embedded. You're going to find your brick wall. I think I like this little smaller one better. You're going to place it in your drawing. This is how I found it's the easiest to work with perspective. I find it's the easiest to work with perspective is to go to the back corner and then pull the perspective out. So what do I mean by that? I mean, click on your mouse, drag, and bring it to that corner. Use the handles to scale. You want to scale it to the length that it is the back corner. So here's the bottom of your carpet. So right there at the point, that's where the bottom of your wall would end. So again, to be clear what I'm doing, we're going to put this brick wall here in perspective. So to begin, we're going to size and move the brick wall till it fits to the length of that back corner. So if this was a 10-foot ceiling, I'm saying that that's that 10-foot wall right there. That's that measuring line. That's as close as I'm going to get for a presentation. And then you're going to hit Enter on your keyboard. That deactivates it. Or we could just move directly to perspective. But I'm going to go ahead and hit Enter on my keyboard. That means I've brought in my image so that I can right-click and rasterize. So now I've brought in my brick. It's flat and it's flat, which would be fine if there was a back wall in one perspective, but we need to bring it on this right wall into perspective. So go to Edit, Transform as you did with Scale, as we've rotated before, but this time you're going to go to Perspective. And we will go Edit, Transform, Perspective again. Next, you're going to bring the right handle up. Bring just that top right handle up, and it's going to very nicely move your brick into perspective. So I'll say this to my one student who's listening and anyone else who's going to listen later. The problem with working with perspective, the warp tool, all those kind of fun bending tools, skewing, is that we as designers tend to overwork. So we tend to overwork it and then things just get really out of sorts. So for this one, I had you just move up that right corner. It looks really good, and you're going to hit Enter on your keyboard. So now I want to see kind of what's happening with my wall. Clearly, I'm going to have to kind of erase where some of the wall goes over my drawing. So last week, or when we did the floor plans, I showed you how to do a cutout, and then we put a picture behind it. This time we're going to use an eraser tool to clean up the line. So from your brick wall image, bring down the opacity to 60%. We're going to put it back up. It's just so that you can see what's happening. So my one student who's there, you can see that the brick is kind of hitting some of this carpet area. It needs to be cleaned up just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up using the eraser tool. So use the eraser tool. Size this so that you can go in there, zoom in if you want. I'm not. And just erase the brick. This needs to be probably skewed up a little bit more here because it's not following that perfect angle. Edit. Transform. This time, so just this little teeny little piece I need to fix. I'm just going to try the Skew tool. So you can see what I'm doing. Right there. I'm just trying to fix that little part of the brick so that it doesn't overlap with the carpet. I could also just erase the carpet. That would be easy too, right there. But to show you what the Skew tool is, I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Skew, and just don't do it too much. There, done. Now it's skewed, and I hit Enter. I want to remove where it goes over my drawing. I'm still on my brick wall layer, right? So if I want to delete it, I have to be on the image. Rectangle tool. I'm just going to highlight that area. I missed a little on the top. Hit delete on my keyboard. Hit delete on my keyboard. Voila. You could have also used an eraser tool. An eraser at 100% perhaps if you wanted just to go down and do it that way as well. Questions? Not until you do it probably, right? Moving to page 5. The final step is to add Entourage. So look, we want that sense of scale. We want to show that energy that this is a cool new Google facility, and there's going to be a bunch of people sitting around this lounge and working and having, you know, good conversations and coming up with the next great thing. So we're going to bring in some of those people. An eye level isn't always at 5 feet. In this case, it's pretty close. But for example, class, if I were to take a picture with my phone or my camera, and I had it, and I'm taking the picture right with my eyes, the camera is right on my eyes, and I take a picture, then my picture will be at eye level. But if I squat down on my knees and I take that same picture, then it no longer is at eye level. So yes, we can go in and find that nice vanishing point, which looks to be right about eye level. But for this exercise, I'm going to have you kind of observe something else. I'm going to have you observe seat height. So most of us are sitting right now, right, on a chair as we do these assignments. Your seat height is 18 inches. Next time you go to a sofa, just observe the back of your knees usually hits about the seat height. So just kind of keep that in mind. Most sofas are about 30 inches tall. So you begin to start noticing different, kind of heights. Table heights are usually around 18 inches. So you have some things that we know. Pictures are usually hung at eye level. So let's bring in Entourage. We're going to bring in the first Entourage and File, Place Embedded, and you're going to bring in, let's bring in someone walking first. Our walking girl. This is a Photoshop, saved as a Photoshop drawing. It has the background cut out. This is just a picture of someone walking, and it has the white pixels in the background. I'm going to bring in the Photoshop drawing. I'm going to bring in this woman walking. There she is down here. And I'm going to put her feet right next to this sofa, as if she's walking right next to this sofa. And I know that her knees should hit right about there. Her knees, the back of her knees usually is that 18-inch mark. If I put her here, maybe she needs to be a little smaller. Hit enter on your keyboard. We can always adjust them in a little bit. Let's bring someone walking, another person walking. File, Place Embedded. I'm just going to bring someone else in. I want her almost walking out the door. If she was here, right next to this 18-inch, there's her knees, and now I'm just going to move her over. I can leave her here or move her over. Now she's there. Her legs are in my sofa, but that's okay. But just kind of look how I'm doing. Eyes and eyes are kind of right at the same level. Maybe she needs to be slightly bigger. I'm rasterizing right now, my Entourage, so that I can manipulate them, like erase. Edit, File, Place Embedded. Who else? Try to have a nice diversity. Where's my guy? Man. Where's the man sitting? He could be sitting on this chair. He could be sitting on this chair. I think I have him sitting back here. So this is a good time to put your eyes up. Really, really easy. I'm doing Edit, Transform, and I'm just flipping him horizontal so that now he'll be sitting on this little area back here. So we'll put him here for now. This is where you're going to bring in some of your own Entourage. Looks like I don't have a man walking. That's good. That's for you to bring in. So I'll just bring in someone. silhouette. All right, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to erase where you're on. Once you get everything placed, you're going to want to erase. So just, take a look at things. Do they look right? I'm going to go to the man. I think the man is the most difficult. I'm going to play with the opacity and see, is he really sitting on, that looks good. It looks like he is sitting on that end of that lounge. It looks like his knees hit right about where they should, and it looks like his feet hit right where they should. That looks good. So I actually think he looks pretty good there on the lounge. Maybe slightly smaller. Fill in if you use the scale. If you want to go, that looks better. It looks like his feet would be right where they would land, right next to the sofa. That looks really good. For my woman walking, I'm going to set her opacity down. Wrong woman. And I can see where I need to erase her. 100%. I'm going to do it just quickly so that she looks like she's behind. She's behind the chair now. Questions about Entourage? This takes practice. This takes practice, and I will make sure that I come back in and say, hey, this person looks a little small, this one looks okay. So you need to put someone here, you need to put something in, like a logo or something in here, and then you're done. So I'm just starting the recording for week 5. This will be our last session on Photoshop before we move into some more of the softwares in the Adobe Suite. And today we move from rendering in 2-dimension flat to consider perspective drawing. So these are the assignments that you see here that we'll be doing today. Oftentimes you don't have to add a lot of color to change a black and white